After all this work, I finally get to drive this thing. You guys ever just have one of those days that's just everything that could go wrong is going wrong? Well, today was supposed to be good day. I was gonna work on patina, which I haven't worked on in a long time. It's got brake issues, so I bought equipment for it so I can work on it. And I cleaned out my garage so I can be in the AC and work on it and have a good time. Well, getting ready to go pick up the woman from work, I'm in the garage and I just hear like whoosh, whoosh, just like the garage door felt like it was about to implode. The gates blew open and my shop, we lost it. Like it blew up in the air and landed on top of the 71. Insert picture. Yeah, so most of the legs are all buckled and kinked and foobarred, and we just kind of like pushed it back in place and quickly drove the car out from under it. So instead, our whole day got switched around, and I have been collecting parts for the 71 RT. We're going to make it roadworthy. Last time you saw this car, okay, I guess I should address the, elephant in the room. The carport did land on top of the car, but luckily it only dinged and scratched it up. And really, that's a new scratch right there, right here. There was the roof, the hood was okay. The roof, I think, had one little scratch. The biggest scratch was right here. And then it added some scratches and some dings to this side. Oh, here's one right here. Yep, the leg, right there. Luckily, the scratches and the dings added to the car kind of go with it. It kind of looks like it was there already. So not too mad about that. But with the failures that we have happened and no longer wanting to work underneath that piece of crap, we're going to roll the 71 into the garage and get it to that roadworthiness and drive it. And we got some brake upgrades to it, but we can't even put our good brakes on it in the current condition that the car is in. I'll show you why. Good old reliable points ignition. Whenever I go on a road trip, I always throw a points distributor in the trunk, because if my MSD or whatever fails, even the Chrysler ignition boxes, if those fail, a points ignition, stupid simple. I do like my rev limiters and my high performance ignition, so I'm a sucker. Now I'm going to show you why we really need to get this car up in the air and work on it. The suspension, oh wow, we really need to clean this thing. This thing is clunky. It's cold, come on. There it goes. Carburetor needs a little bit of tunage too. All right, here we go. Let go of the steering wheel, brakes. Whoa, actually the brakes work pretty damn good. It locked it up, but I need to do it a little bit slower. All right, so we'll do it a little bit easier. All right, see the steering wheel, it moved? Do that again. Hands off, light brakes. See the steering wheel moving? So the suspension, oh man, move that back. The suspension on this car is clapped out. The bushings are lack thereof. The lower control arms, I don't know. We'll find out when we get it up. But the upper control arms, bushings are missing. The strut rods, bushings are missing, and the strut rods is the front side of the control arm, and when you hit the brake pedal, the control arms are doing this because the bushings are gone, see? And when the bushings are gone, that's the control arm moving back and forth, and that's the caster changing, and therefore that's what makes the steering wheel go right and left, is because the caster is gone. You know, let's swerve this thing. Oh yeah, it needs shocks too. We are missing a rear shock, and the front shocks are junk. Oh yeah. Now, this has the large power drum brakes. Like, these are pretty damn good for the factory drums. Problem with drums, which we didn't really see on this car right now, is because they've been adjusted properly. I've gone and adjusted them. Now, drums require maintenance, and if drums are properly maintained, they're actually not that bad. Do I need transmission fluid? Yeah, there we go. We also have a transmission leak. Maybe we'll address that. Project engage. Boy, it didn't get any calmer last night with the weather. It actually got worse. So you saw that my carport was a little tweaked up last night. Well, this is it now. I had this thing strapped to two engines, that one, and it was strapped to the chain link fence back there. And the wind was so strong, it just lifted this thing up, folded it like a taco, and then just end of story. So I have officially lost the shop at the old place. So we're just gonna go ahead and ignore that at the moment and step into the garage, because we have a cool 71 Charger here. Keep rolling, yeah. Trying to get all these cars rolling and running and driving. Don't let them sit. Fix them and get them on the road. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be full restoration. And actually, this car looks a hell of a lot better, and we didn't do no full restoration on this thing. But to get it roadworthy, it needs some major suspension fixes. One of those fixes is, well, all the bushings are clapped out. And to show you, look at this. Look. The bushing is completely missing in the upper. The shocks completely shot. The lower control arm, well, I had to crawl underneath it and look at it, but it's completely spooging out on all the way around the pin. So the lower control arm bushing is shot. The uppers, the shocks, we're just gonna go ahead and replace the ball joints as well. And if we look right here, this is the strut rod bushing. Oh, that's just breaking apart. Vegas heat and sun has disintegrated that. But this is what controls the forward and back movement of the lower control arm. And since that side is completely gone, what happens is upon braking, the control arm goes backwards. And if we look at this side, it still has some of its bushing there. So that one is more rigid. This side here is more rigid. So since the right side goes backwards and the driver's side doesn't, that means the passenger side just went a whole bunch negative on caster, and that's why the car just wanted to dart to the right, is because, you know, the drop in caster. So it'll do that. In Circle Track, you know, you'll play with caster so that way the car wants to turn left on braking, and it wants to turn left naturally when you let go of the steering wheel. It helps the driver back in the day when they didn't have power steering, and so the car would just mechanically want to turn for them, so the driver could last 500 miles in a race without his arms just turning into noodles. So we're gonna go ahead and, ooh, I just noticed this, but I don't have any. I may have to order some. The sway bar bushing is completely blowed out too. And another reason why third gens are just mechanically better than second gens, there's better body stiffening. So second gens didn't have this additional brace here that went to the shock tower, which helped reinforce the front clip from doing this number. Also, they've got torque boxes front and rear, which stiffens up the frame rail to the rockers. See, that's the front torque box right there, and then the rear is all the way back there. Yep, see, there's the rear torque box right here, and that drastically stiffens up the rocker to the frame rail. So when these cars were cruising down the highway and making corners, they didn't have all that additional body flex in them. But I still love my second gens. They are just bitchin' looking. Yep, ain't no better on the driver's side. Ah, look at that low friction drag. And that is actually part of the reason why these were standard on some big horsepower cars. Like your A12s, your 69.5 A12s, the Roadrunners and the Super Bs, they put these on the cars just because they're low drag, faster, lower ETs, less friction. So that's part of the damn it, Bolt, you're ruining my scene. Also, this was the standard brake system on Daytonas. You could have upgraded to disc brakes, but this was the standard on Daytonas. And when you got a lot of mass and a lot of speed, you want some brakes to stop it. But the reason these are on this car is this was the standard brake system for an RT. Yes, it got the big one, 11x3s, and these work really well, as you saw earlier. There are some downfalls to drum brakes, which is why they eventually got, pushed out of the industry, is they are maintenance. Like, in order to stay on top of them, if one adjuster quit working but the other side kept working, well, now this one's going to stay in adjustment, but this one's going to get looser and looser and looser as time goes on. So every time you hit the brake pedal, the steering wheel is going to want to do this number. So that's one reason drum brakes were phased out, is they were a lot more maintenance. And if you look at cars today, they pretty much have safety labels on everything. You look at the dipstick tube, do not lick dipstick. You look at the transmission fluid, not candy. You look at the coolant reservoir, do not drink. I mean, they kind of had to dumbify all new cars. So the less maintenance that somebody has to do to a car, the better it will sell. Another problem with drum brakes nowadays is nobody really arcs the shoes. Like when you pull a shoe out of the box, it is not perfectly arched to the diameter of the drum, the inside. And so what they'll do is they'll perfectly true the shoes to match the drum. Well, nobody really does that anymore. So you get this play, and the shoe will actually kick and get grabby. And so that's another downfall to drum brakes nowadays. Also is heat. If you're going down a big grade and you've got a lot of weight behind you, say you're a truck, or you have a tow hitch on, your RT Charger like me, and you're coming down a grade, pulling the boat, went to the lake. Well, drum brakes, when they get hot, they don't dissipate heat very well. It's kind of like a closed unit. So like the NASCAR guys, they would actually have vent holes in the backing plate and trying to push as much air in and out as possible. But eventually even NASCAR went to disc brakes. Now the drum brakes were pretty proven, and when disc brakes first came out in NASCAR, they weren't all that great. But over time, the disc brakes got perfected and they were more betters. So speaking of more betters, we're gonna go ahead and rip this stuff off and put our lead brakes on here.
Everybody needs something. Everybody needs something. Everybody needs something. As soon as I wake up, phone already lit before my shoes laced up. One wants time, one wants money, one says love, but it don't say phone. One needs faith. Help stimulator, I've been running all day on but I know that look when they don't see hurt, they see what I do, now what it takes. They see a strong back, not what it breaks. Everybody needs something. Everybody wants mine. Everybody calls me when they're out of time. But when I need one thing, when I need...
Well, further diving into the 71 Charger, I can see that the suspension had been tampered with on this left front. And if you remember in the previous episode, this left front fender is the one that had all the Bondo in it in that back corner. And the whole car had been repainted early in its life. So I'm thinking that this left front suspension was also damaged in that crash or whatever had happened to it, because these bushings here were not installed correctly. These are the front strut bushings, which went right there. Also, our left front lower control arm is missing the bump stop. It's not there. Now, it could have just fallen off, but not likely, because there's a stud that's attached to the bushing, and it would have kind of held it in place. Plus, those, I've never seen one just come loose. That just doesn't happen. Yep, the bump stop is still there. Those do not just fall out. Also, see, our roll pin is still there. Again, those just do not fall out. All right, now that we've got all the suspension and brakes ripped off of the driver's side, we're gonna go ahead and run to the passenger side. I'll knock that all off real quick, and then I'll get right back to you. But it's looking pretty good so far. Frame rail's nice and straight, so whatever damage this car had encountered, it required them to take the fender off, because you can see there used to be a factory seam here, like seam sealer. Well, by pulling the fender off, it had removed that factory seam sealer. And so that the fender's been off and had body work done to it. The lower control arm had been replaced. I do not believe this is the original lower control arm, especially with that bump stop missing. And well, another reason why I think it's been replaced is that roll pin was not put back in. So this control arm had been out of the car at one point. And really the only reason to pull that control arm out of the car is if it was damaged. And just think, this damage, this paint, all of this was done when the car was fairly new. Had to have been. Also, it still retains the correct 781 driver's side torsion bar, and still has the correct skid plate K-frame to it. This right here is a factory skid plate. So at least the damages that had happened didn't require that to get replaced. Because you know, if that needed to get replaced, they were just going to throw whatever skid plate on it that they could get their hands on. All right, guys. The suspension is all out. It's on the table. I have even removed all the pins. This is the lower control arm pins, and I have cleaned them up. And I'm actually I was going to knock the sleeve off, but I don't think I even really need to. I'm just going to deburr the end, because these are my new Pro Forged lower control arm bushings. These are actually, well, you grease them. It'd be nice if there was like a grease zerk on here, and then you could just drill this and tap, and I could do that. I could drill and tap and put a grease zerk on this, because you can see it has the grooves for grease to hide out and slither its way and lube up the sleeve that's in there. But I'm going to remove that sleeve because it's the same thing as what's already pressed on the control arm. So why bother? And these will move much freer. It will free up suspension travel, because normally you press the pin in here and it's fixed. The only suspension travel you have is what the bushing flexes. So this will be much better. It'll handle better. It'll actually control the caster and camber better from less control arm flex. So that's why I chose this. The shocks, obviously, these are garbage. I mean, Hell, I could use my pinky and compress them. So there really is no suspension travel with these junk. But I've got some, well, used new, here we go, where are they at? Right here. Gas KYB shocks. We're gonna put these on there because I have them. That's a good excuse to use something, is because you have it. You know, why go out and spend thousands and hundreds of dollars on stuff when you have stuff you can use? So I'm going to do that. Right now, there's multiple ways you can take the inner sleeve out of the control arm. Normally I weld a washer here or a nut or something, and then I will press or hammer the sleeve out the other side. What I have done here is I kind of hammered the sleeve in to crown, and then I'll just go ahead and ball up some weld right there, and then I'll flip it upside down and hammer the sleeve out. You guys that have watched the last episode or two, whenever this one comes up, will recognize my Harbor Freight welder that I used on Dalton's frame rail, and it didn't have any gas when we were actually welding his frame rail in it, even though I had the bottle hooked up. And it did the job, and I don't feel like dragging and setting up the welder and all that to basically booger weld something on here to knock the control arm sleeve out. So we're gonna go ahead and booger weld gasless again to get the control arms to where we can assemble them. It's like one of them trick candles. Aha! Oh. Yeah, so you're probably thinking, idiot, why don't you just use a press? Well, most of my tools are at the other property now, so I'm just dealing with what I've got left. Yep. Or I'll just take a junk bolt, washer, whatever, and weld it into the sleeve. That's just tacked at the moment, just to show you. And then I'll just weld it all up in that sleeve. Hold on. Oh. That didn't work as planned. I was gonna try and be cool and flip it up. Anyways, I'll burn it all the way around and then punch the sleeve out from the backside. There it goes. Go ahead. That's it. That's it. Yep. Yep. Sweet. Yeah, those bushings were not happening at home, so I had to come to my buddies at Dan's Driveline. Now back home where I can assemble this whole thing. Yeah, so last night I pretty much had to give up on hammering my suspension together. Went over to Dan's Driveline, assembled my bushings, got my pins in, and they're all greased up, so now this pin should be able to rotate in that bushing, which that should free up suspension travel. The suspension will work better, and those bushings are more rigid than the original soft rubber ones. This is urethane bushing, so more gooders. Another thing that's going to be more gooders is, well, as you can tell, here's my upper control arm bushing. It's completely blowed out on one side. What I have to replace it to save time and effort, because I don't have my press here, is I went ahead and bought pre-assembled pretty upper control arms. Now, they're kind of the cheap ones. They're like just the eBay ones that you can buy for like $100, but that is going to work better than that.
been good before. Forgot my name, I've been loyal to people who switch for change. I've been calm and runs, I should've walked out. I've been too damn real for a fake ass crowd, but I just know the difference between love and waiting. Lately it feels like the same damn thing. Everybody pulls when they see one string. Everybody needs some. Everybody wants mine. Everybody calls me when they're out of time. But when I need one thing, when I need one thing, everybody gets quiet. Everybody needs something. I don't hate nobody. I just see it clear. Funny how
Bolt, you're taking up the whole scene, buddy. Move your butt. Move your booty butt. All right. So we've got our urethane lower control arm bushings. Now it is time for an even goodier part. Brakes. Yes, that. Ooh. Now, I don't get a lot of sponsor stuff on the channel, and I'm really picky about who I actually want on my channel because, well, as you guys know, if you're long-term followers, I tend to break stuff. And so I don't want all the gimmick things and just the, the looky-loo stuff that looks the part but doesn't function. Now, that's why I reached out to Lead. I have run several different types of 4-piston calipers. Reason is the calipers are aluminum and they're just not built rigid enough. Like I've run circle track aluminum calipers, but they're way more rigid. They're just bulky and built for endurance versus, these 4-piston setups that they advertise for full-size cars, but really I wouldn't trust them on a go-kart. These are actually cast iron 4-piston disc brakes. That is why I chose this. Now, is it super lightweight race car stuff? No, but I consider this the super reliable, always gonna be there brake pedal setup. So that is why I went with the 4-piston Lead brake setup, is because, well, sometimes I tow and sometimes I haul ass, and when I need to stop, I need to stop. And the kit comes with steel braided brake lines, which is a huge upgrade from the macaroni rubber lines. But also what I like is they're red powder coated. So now this car would have had, which you saw, the maximum size 11x3 drum brakes on it, which Mopar painted them red, is then like that's the upgrade. Red means performance, so it's just kind of cool that, okay, we're not going to have giant red drums on it anymore, but we're at least going to have red brake calipers, cast iron, strong, durable red brake calipers. And an additional part of that bling, the eye candy, is the XDS Max Grip rotors. Now, if you want the most brake you can get, it's solid. There will be no cross-drilled or slotted rotors. But with that becomes more heat and stuff will warp. Now, with the cross-drilled and slotted rotors, it dissipates the heat better, and your pedal will not get spongy, your brake pads will not get overheated. And another bonus to this Lead brake kit is the adjustable proportioning valve. These come in handy. Most guys don't think much of it, but it does come in handy and the way I always dial them in is do a couple panic stops. If the ass end is wanting to come around the front end, we'll take a little bit of rear brake out of it, do it again. And so you never know when you're gonna need to panic stop, but you can always dial your car in when you have something like this. If you just have a fixed bias, well, you got what you got. There's no adjustment to it. Plus, if you just want to go out and do a whole bunch of gnarly burnouts, Well, you just take all the rear brake out of it just by unscrewing this little dial here. If you go to the autocross and the car's a little tight on corner entry on the brake pedal, well, guess what? You just take that dial and turn it all the way in, and you have more rear brake. It'll help rotate the car. So it's just, when you learn how these work, it's just another tool to dial in the car to how you want it. Now we get to take our ugly spindle, drum brake spindle, because this used to have the 11x3s on it, and we're going to convert it into that lead brake setup. Normally, I'll take these off, get them sandblasted, paint, epoxy them, and then paint them with like a cast iron color so they look like brand new raw cast iron. But there's no time for that right now. Does anybody ever read instructions? Ooh, pictures. Cool. Now I can assemble this.
Just shows you what ain't covered. Truck died right there on the shoulder. Hazards blinking like they're nervous for me. Phones dead, skies wide open. Ain't a soul in a hurry to see. I stood there longer than I should've. Watched the road like it owed me something. Every set of lights felt like maybe. Didn't hit the brake, didn't roll it down, didn't even fake, just kept that line like I wasn't there. Funny how loud it gets when nobody cares. Yeah, don't really know till you need the time. They saw me, it just didn't stop. Same folks talk about we got to when it's like.
Getting so close to this thing being done with brakes and suspension. One thing left though is need to replace a new master cylinder with a new master cylinder. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound right, right? But this is the master cylinder I put on here when we first got the car running and driving, because the original master cylinder was drum power brakes, which it would have had two of the smaller reservoirs front and back, or well, even size front and back. With disc brakes, you have a much larger reservoir, because as the pads get worn and the pistons come farther out of the caliper to take up for that worn away material on the pad, well, that requires more fluid, so it needs a bigger reservoir to take up for what the piston is having to absorb. You've already got a new one, why replace it with another disc brake new one? Well, the new master cylinder is all cast iron and shiny looking, versus the old new one has some rust on it. So we're going to go ahead and swap it out. Plus it gives me more room to get down in there and mount my adjustable proportioning valve. You know, it don't look half bad sitting where it's at. Almost looks like it's supposed to be there. I went ahead and mocked up my master cylinder, bolted it in place, and that allowed me to fit the brake line that it came with in the kit. So I was able just to shape it just a little bit, get everything to mock up in place. Now that I know it's all going to be good, I can bolt it all together for the final time. I'm gonna go ahead and, I don't really like bench bleeding. I like firewall bleeding. Just go ahead and bolt the thing to the car, hook up your lines, and then just pump the ever-living crap out of the brake pedal and get all the fluid out of it by doing a firewall bleeding. It's a The way I bent the brake lines and everything, it all just tucked in there perfectly. My whole brake setup here looks perfect. Everything is just perfected. So we'll get the brake bias dialed in. After we get it bled, get it on the ground, we might end up changing the transmission pan gasket because it's leaking pretty bad. So we might end up doing that. I got to change the turn circle switch. Few other little things on this car. Oh, and suspension alignment. And then we can go for our road trip. Yeah, we're gonna road trip this thing. Okay, so when I got this car, it only had 3 shocks on it. It had 2 bad front shocks and it had 1 rear air shock. What was left of the 4th one was there, but we had to remove it so we can go ahead and replace our Gabriel Rock Auto shocks. These are, well, not your top of the lines, but you know what? 2 rear shocks is better than 1 bad shock. So we're gonna go ahead and put these guys on there. Derek went ahead and wire wheeled up my hardware so it's all spiffy clean and everything. So grease up my bushings, slap it together, zap it down, and the back of the car will be done, including all the bleeding. Since we're under here, might as well check the gear oil. You know, why risk having a problem on the side of the road with a burned up rear end when we're right here and we can just check it before we ever hit the road? I know some people like it because it's content, but I'd rather keep the ball rolling and the camera's going driving. All right, well, nothing is rushing out. Let me stick my finger in there. Ooh, okay, we got some fluid, but it could use a little bit more. Not bad. Would have never burned up, but it's a good thing we checked. Yeah, so only about half a quart. Still, better to be safe than sorry. At least I know the pinion seal on the diff is good. Nolan said that he had this transmission rebuilt and he had receipts for it. I think he got boned because he said he had the transmission rebuilt and then never really drove it after that. Does that look like a transmission that has had really no miles put on it after they rebuilt it? No, it does not. That looks like a used up, worn out, leaky old transmission. And it leaks like a pig. Now, I think the main source of its leakage is actually coming from the shift linkage right here. There's a seal in there that the shaft rides on, and I believe that is the leaking source, because we know from gravity and physics that transmission fluid won't go up, it goes down. So our source of leakage is mostly, I want to say, coming right, yeah, I see the red blood coming right out of that seal right there. And I'm pretty sure this transmission pan gasket is garbage as well, because just plucking away out with my finger, it just crumbles apart. So I'm pretty sure we have 2 leaks going on here. And I'm only gonna fix one, the easy one. So I'm gonna put a new transmission pan gasket on this thing, because to fix that shaft seal in the car is kind of a pain in the ass. And really you have to drop the transmission down, or at least angle it down, pull, you know, drop the cross member, drop the exhaust, allow the transmission to dangle down, just so you can even get good access at that. And am I gonna do that right now? No. At least my transmission pan and all my hardware is like rust free from all the fluid leaking all over it. I mean, look at that. Like new. It's almost done peeing. Couple more minutes. You know, it actually looks pretty damn clean in here. Looks really good. Even the filter's not dirty. And the inside of the pan was pretty clean too. So while I had this cover off, I was like, well, let me go ahead and adjust the bands. And I know it was like 2 to 2 3/4. I couldn't quite remember. So I called the Gary Enlow with Pentastar Performance. We're always making fun of that guy, but he's always full of advice. That's what, you see, if you have old guys, you call the old guys because they've been there, done that. So it's always good technical advice, or they tell you what to do. And it didn't even dawn on me that I was telling Gary where it was leaking, and he's like, you know, you can just drop the valve body and then knock the seal out from the bottom, and then use like a nut, bolt, and washer, and then suck the new seal in from the bottom. So you set the seal on top and then suck it down. So I was like, hey, I can do that. Don't you hate working on them when they're super grungy like this? Having to pull all the shift linkage off, it's just covered in just decades of just grimy gunk. Ugh. Oh, slimy. That's all gonna go in a gasoline bath. Yeah, all this work to replace the seal that's right in there. But you know what? It'll be gratifying when it's done. You know, before you do it and while you're doing it, you're like, F this thing, leaky piece of shit, what the hell? But then once you're done, you're like, feel all gratified and like accomplished. So I'm looking forward to that moment. Goodbye, junk seal. Aha. Well, while I'm waiting for parts to finish putting the transmission back together, might as well do one of the uneventful things, which is replacing the turn signal switch. I have to do this because the brake lights run through the turn signal switch and I have no brake lights. And driving through Las Vegas, you need brake lights. There's a lot of people that just have the phone in their face, and without brake lights to withdraw phone from face, they will rear end the back of my pretty little 71 RT Charger. All right. Wow, this stuff's all pretty brittle. The Vegas sun ruins everything. A lot of people don't realize a 71 B body actually has a lot in relation to a 71 E body. The front clip of a 71 B body is an E body. And also we have a can extension on the steering wheel. So like the soup can that's on a 71 Cuda, well, instead of the soup can, the rib material, we just have like a solid sleeve can. So had to get longer bolts from my steering wheel puller to be able to accomplish this because of that. Plus the dash kind of more relates to an E-body. You know, it's an E-body console. It's like more E-body than B-body in 71. Not a shocker, the replacement turn signal switch sucks ass. Like, the hazard switch is so finicky. Like, a 1/16 of an inch this way, you know, all of a sudden the flashers are blinking all the time. 1/16 of an inch that way. Now all of a sudden the tail lights are flashing, but not the dash lights. And then you shove it all the way in, it just wouldn't. You'd have to get it like just in that real fine in between. And I found that by just removing the hazard flasher, now all of a sudden well, this thing sucks too. But turn signal switch and brake lights work as they should. We'll just throw that in there, bolt all this crap back together, and move on to the next thing. The good thing about desert fine cars, the bodies are super solid, but all the plastics and the interiors and all the soft parts are garbage. Here is my horn button trim ring. It is no good. It just disintegrated as I was trying to bolt the screws, put my horn button pad back on. So gonna have to be ordering a new one of these for sure. Yep, valve body is out, pan is clean, and we are just working on replacing both the shift shaft seal and the kick down. So there's actually two seals that go right here, and if you only replace one, well, then that leaves the potential to other one to leak. Since we're right here, replace them both and slap it back together. This is going to be the easy one to replace. You just saw me pull it out. We're just gonna go ahead and push this guy back in like so, and then lift my kick down back up. Oh, dang it. Okay, one-handed, this sucks. And just like that, with two hands, presto dunzo, changed-o. Here's my plan. Since we have no way to like hammer the seal in from the top because, well, the car is in the way, we're going to nut bolt washer the top and bottom and suck the seal into the transmission. See if this works. I'm hoping it does. Aha, success. And it's not even distorted or anything. Sweet. Moving on. Okay, doing a little bit more preventative failure right now. We've got ourselves a new radiator hose, because what was right here was an inline filter which stops debris from getting into the radiator. I'll show you the filter right here. I got this guy at Jegs. They work great. I just don't suggest driving on them during the summer, which, guess what? It's summer here now. So we're gonna replace the radiator hose that we had butchered to put that filter on there with a nice solid one, so we get all the water flowage. Because last time I tried to drive on one of those during the summer, it would overheat. And another goodie that just showed up. Derek, do you like nuts? No. I like nuts. And I got some new wheel nuts from my buddies at Lug Nut Guys. They're good. I call them, hey, I'm working on this car. It has these wheels. Send me some nuts. So they did. So we've got a full set of lug nuts, correct ones to put on our car. Now we can get the wheels on here, Derek. Well, actually, we're going to put the nice new shiny lug nuts on the back, too. We can't be rolling around with dirty nuts. So... NASCAR teams are not going to be calling you anytime soon, Derek. Now with the factory type upper control arms, caster is not going to be your friend. You have to like really struggle to get caster. So we're going to max out the rear eccentric bolt, camber bolt. We're going to max it out all the way towards the engine, and then we're going to most likely have to pull this one out to get a little bit more caster out of it, but that's all going to depend on how much camber we got. Really, for the street, I just keep it like ½ degree negative. I know some guys are like 0, but these cars have horrible geometry. And when you first throw it into a corner, or even just entering the highway, the on-ramp, they camber out. So I always start with at least negative ½ degree camber, because as soon as you even touch the steering wheel, that's gone. Now my cam bolts are not locked down yet. They're just slightly snug. And I even greased the bushing to the body side, so that way when we set the car down, it'll allow the bushing to rotate on the body. Because you don't really want to lock that down until the car is at ride height. Because what happens is these bushings, they don't rotate. All the suspension you get is just in the flex of the rubber. So if you lock it down while the car's in the air, same with the lowers, except the lowers, we cheated. We don't have factory type lower control arm bushings. We have urethane bushings. And with those bushings, the pin does actually rotate in the bushing with it being all lubed up. The uppers, I cheaped out. I just bought the eBay stuff. Because if you lock that stuff down and then set the car on the ground, well, now if we had the factory type lower control arm bushings, now the bushings are going to be all twisted up and they will prematurely wear out. Now you know if you didn't. All right, anytime you're adjusting the suspension, anytime you make an adjustment, you want to roll it back, roll it forward to allow the suspension to settle out. Because toe is going to change it, camber, well, caster not so much. Ride height will actually change your suspension too. So I'm going to get my ride height set first how I want it, which this side is about 3/4 of an inch low. So we're going to jack this side up. Ha! Torsion bars. All you Chevy and Ford guys can suck it. We have the easy adjustment. Just checking our transmission fluid right now. And I looked underneath it. We are in the good. It's not bleeding anymore. This thing used to leak so bad. And even there's not even any residue around the pan gasket. So I feel successful on that. We just need to add about ½ quart. Time for casters and cambers. And if you're a hobby, car guy, and you do a lot of suspension alignments on your own, you need the proper equipments. This caster camber gauge, these come in handy a lot. And then just simple toe plates. This is what we're going to use on this car. And because this car has the factory center cover on it, normally this is magnetic here and it just slips over the hub, and which I could, take the wheel off and prep it out and do all that. But normally if it's a car like this, I'll just plop, set this on the tire, or set this on the toe plate and then set it up against the wheel, because that's going to get it good enough. I forgot to mention, I also finished all my ride heights, and it actually came out pretty good. So we got 1 inch of rake in it from the back to the front, according to the front and back of the rocker. 1 inch looks good. I'm gonna roll with that, and I got about 3/8 of an inch. Well, I got 1 thumb between the bump stop and the frame rail, so should ride pretty nice. We're just gonna kind of breeze through this. If you want like a more in-depth of how to do caster camber and all that, and do a full setup on your car, I've got an older video on that, going pretty in-depth on it. This one here, we're gonna blow through it. All right, let's see what kind of cambers we got, Derek. Well, not yet. We're not doing camber. So right now I have about 2.5 degrees of negative camber, which is this bubble right here. This is my negative side. This is my positive side. This is what we'll use to check the caster on it. Go ahead and fire it up, Derek, and turn the wheel all the way to the right. So we're going to turn the wheel all the way to the right. I'm going to zero out my caster gauge. All right, Derek, all the way to the left. So right now we have 2.5 degrees of positive caster, which is not record breaking, but not too bad. But we also have too much negative camber in it. So I'm gonna add a little bit more caster in it, try and at least get it to 3. So I'm gonna camber the front side of the control arm out. Let's go ahead and check the other side. Hopefully it's symmetrical side to side, because I set the caster bolts, well, the cam bolts up the same way. So that's a good way of knowing if you have a good chassis. Mopar did not assemble these cars like perfect. There's plus or minus like 1/4 to 3/8, sometimes 1/2 of an inch on body fitment stuff. So we'll see how close this one is. All right, so this side, we only have a 1 degree of negative camber, and the cam bolts are set the same side to side. All right, to the left. Your other left. Oh, wow. See, but this side has 6 degrees of positive caster. So this thing would just want to do right-hand turns. Okay then. I'm gonna write this stuff down. All right, so these are my numbers. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing set up. We are good. Well, good enough. We have 3/4 of a degree of negative camber on both sides, and we have 3.5 degrees of positive caster on both sides. And for the stock upper control arms, that's pretty good. You know, that's about the most I can get without taking away, without adding too much camber. So I think we just need to set the toe is set. But with me, you set the toe pretty close. Like right now it's neutral, there's not towed in, it's not towed out. And then you go drive it and you figure out where the steering wheel needs to be. Take it around the block, straight road, and then from there we can bring it this side in a little bit, bring that toe that side out, wherever it needs to be, that the car ends up being comfortable and happy with the steering wheel straight. And then we double check the toe, and we're good to go. We just have to figure out where, because you can't just set the steering wheel straight and then set the toe and expect the steering wheel to be perfectly straight driving down the road. These cars have a lot of wiggle and a shimmy and all added to them, so they take a little bit of driving to set them up. Cool. Want to go around the block, Derek?
Sure.
Me too! Well, we still got a lot to do tonight. It doesn't even include this car. We still got a lot of stuff to move and load up, and trailer and truck to get ready. And that's all got to happen today. But as of right now, there's still some daylight, and I want to take this thing around the block to see how close the toe is, to see which way the steering wheel needs to go. If the steering wheel needs to go this way, well, then I know I need to bring the toe, whichever way it needs to go, that direction, so then the steering wheel will straighten back out. So we're just going to take it around the block and kind of overall feel what the new brakes and suspension is like. I actually have not driven this thing with decent suspension. It had good brakes, but these discs are mucho gooder and more consistent. No maintenance required. What do you think, Derek? Want to try it?
Yeah.
I know the carburetor needs a little bit of tweaking. Hey, what though? It already doesn't feel all clunky and crap like it was before. Have its own way now. What the hell? Huh. Okay, now we all of a sudden got random misfires and stuff. What though? Alright, we're gonna have to bleed the brakes a little better. But, you know, now we gotta see what's going on with that. It just won't accelerate. It's probably so cool. This car runs so quiet you probably can't hear it, but it's just hiccuping and farting and burping with any kind of throttle input. Running like ass. So we'll go ahead and offset the toe real quick. We'll just do one turn both directions. That don't sound good. I don't know. I was thinking it was ignition, but if you look right, if it can jump an inch of spark almost and still run, usually it still has pretty good spark. It's got fuel. It seems to be running fine now. The only thing I saw was, oh, I did it again. Okay. The coil wire, it did it again. It keeps getting pinched in there. It was getting pinched in between there. And if there's a, maybe it was just slightly getting spark through it. I don't know. So, there. I didn't adjust anything. I didn't do anything. The only thing I think of is that one coil wire being pinched on that was sparking through the wire into the dryer. Okay, I went ahead and offset the toe one turn per side to the left, so hopefully that straightens out the steering wheel. The carburetor needs more fuel on the transition slot, so I'm gonna have to put smaller bleeds on the transmission lock. It's just part throttle. It's just and then once it catches the main jet, you know, bah, it takes off. But carburetor definitely needs adjustments. Shit, the steering wheel is perfectly straight. That's a pretty good guess. All right, ready for the wiggle test, Eric? Hang on. Man, this thing's nice. Yep, good brakes. I think so far, so good. Oh, I left my wrench under there. Oh, you know what?
You can just park it back in the garage.
Yeah, let's put it back in the garage. Because we got to bleed the brakes again anyway, but we got to start loading stuff up. So I think for at the moment, I'm going to let the thing cool off. Me and Derek will re-bleed the brakes a little bit. And I don't know, after some carburetor adjustments, it should be pretty roadworthy, I would think. Oil pressure is great right in the middle. The water temperature is just to the low side of normal. Alternator is charging. What was the tach working? Oh, no. Hopes. Yeah. All that 440 power.
Yeah. Midnight. Cross shine. Hear that motor? That's trouble coming. Bardo swinging in a neon storm. Leather and chrome like the night was born. That you walked in slow through the whiskey haze. Black dress cutting through the biker blaze. Whole room froze like the beat went dead. Cold dark eyes under midnight dread. I said, hold up girl, where you riding tonight? She said, wherever that thunder bike takes flight. Long cool woman in a black dress, walking through the smoke like a wild west. Trap beat knocking, engine scream. Chrome moon shining in a rebel dream. Long cool woman in a black dress, yeah. Midnight riding, never second guess. When the throttle calls and the road gets mean, ride with the king of the outlaw scene.
We are finally out in the middle of nowhere where we can stretch the 71 RT's legs. It's got a 440. These things like to breathe. They don't want to be in stop and go traffic. This thing wants to move. I guess the rear brakes in this thing are really good. Well, I guess we'll just launch it. We'll go ahead and let the GoPro catch up. Gonna cruise. You know, after driving this car for a while, one thing I've noticed is it drives way better than a second gen. It cruises nice. The body just feels more rigid. I mean, it has a super long hood you got to look at, but at least it's a cool bolt hood with the gills in it. I could look at that hood all day. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, that exhaust leak is pretty annoying, I know. I should have fixed that a long time ago. It's ruining my beautiful scenery. We're not quite into the trees yet, but they're there. 6,000. So far we're at 6,000 feet and climbing, and our temperature and our oil is still great. Come on, little 440. Chug, 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 chug. Nah, it's not that bad. It still has a little bit in reserve. Oh. 7,000. Natural trees. We just don't see that in Las Vegas. Nowhere is there natural trees in Las Vegas. And nowhere is Las Vegas to be found. We is out here.
Woke up this morning with the devil in my chest. Factory whistle blowing, but I ain't gonna rest.
Still trying to figure out how to work this drone thing. Trying to get all the cool shots. Okay, that one looks pretty cool. Wow, that drone is way the hell out there. We just hit 8,000 right now, 8,000 feet. Passing the sign right now. That sign right there was 8,000 feet. And gotta say, this thing is running, well, not all that great, but it's still running. It has no balls, no balls, no balls, but it's still going. Our temperatures are great, our oil pressure is great. Everything is as it should. All right, we're coming up to an overlook in 1/4 of a mile. It's always so relaxing just to cruise your muscle car. Enjoy the scenery. Ooh, 8,500 feet now. And we're still going like a champ. Come on, 71, lead us the way. I think we just peaked out a I'm starting to see earth again. As I'm going downhill from 8,000 feet, it just came to me. I'm like, you know what? We just installed a really nice Leeds 4-piston disc brake setup on this car. Probably should check it now before it gets really bad. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, lock up. Let's do it again. Whoa! And straight. That was great. It wasn't like all rip, 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 rip. With all our smokage, with all of our suspension rebuilt and a disc brake setup on the car now that is going to stop true and straight every time. Now, when we're going downhill from 8,000 feet, that's a lot of brake usage. So it's nice that we converted it and we get all that extra ventilation and consistent brake pedal. Well, we're starting to get back into the ugly desert climate. As you can tell in the background, it's getting more brown. I guess I gotta head back to civilization. I'm back. It's the next day. There was a few things that I did yesterday trying to make this episode, and I feel I didn't do the car justice. Also, well, I'm an idiot. There was several scenes I had forgot to just press record with my new drone. It's pretty windy today. Like, it's windier right now than it was yesterday when I was using the drone at, you know, 8,000 feet elevation. Now I'm at about 2,200, and well, going back and looking at the footage and also how I was driving it, I noticed, oh, it's headliner. You know what, so we don't litter, we'll take this with us. Yeah, if you notice, I am like littered with headliner insulation because it's falling apart in the car. The headliner is 55 years old and it's fabric and it's a desert car, so literally the headliner is blowing apart as I'm driving it down the highway. I was trying to do the Burnout. It's a 440 RT Charger. Like, you would think Burnout monster with all the torques from a 440. And we couldn't even get it to bark the tires. Granted, that was at 5,000 feet. But there was other issues along with that. I'll show you right now. We still have the 11 by 2.5 rear drum brakes on this thing, and they're no slouch. These work great. And when you're trying to overpower the car and you haven't adjusted your brake bias yet, well, you get two scenarios. You get the one where it just has no balls and won't light the tires up because you're really trying to burn through the brakes, and you get this scene. Yeah, the rear tires were locking up way before the fronts. So, you know, if you remember, I had installed this fancy doohickey brake bias right here. So I had to take a bunch of turns out of it, and I drove it last night, and I got it to where I can slam on the brakes and the fronts were locking up before the rears. That's just an adjustment that needed to be made, and well, I forgot to make it because I was too busy trying to figure out drone and footage, and I was on a way busier road. You would think a mountain road way up in the middle of nowhere wouldn't be busy, but it was pretty busy, and I was trying to do things and just sidetracked, forgot. So I got the brake issue fixed. Also, I was trying to do like a cool drive away scene where I would set the drone up behind the car as if just cruising, and then mat the throttle and get that cool like takeoff scene, like vanishing point, just vanishing away to a point, hence vanishing point. but it was billowing so much of black smoke from richness that I was like, wow, that looks like a damn diesel. And this is the Holley 780 vacuum secondary carburetor that Nolan had put on here, and I haven't tweaked with it, I haven't adjusted, I haven't really done a whole lot. I did, however, do some tuning to it last night. It obviously needed it, you know, black smoke and all. So I pulled a spark plug last night, looked at it. The plug was like the electrode was burned halfway right at the bend. It had a nice tannish color on the tip, and everything looked good except for like a black chalk ring around the base. And I'm like, well, you know, it's really not that bad. Why was it billowing so much smoke? And so I go back and look at the video, and I notice that it only starts billowing smoke in the higher RPM. So what would happen is, in the secondaries are opening, we'll just take the air cleaner off and I'll show you. Right here is your main jet air bleeds. This is the air that comes in and turbulates up in the emulsion tube and comes out of the booster. Well, these holes here were so itty bitty, I damn near needed a microscope to see them. So I pulled out my itty bitty drill bits. Yep, this guy right here. No, that's not a needle, that is a drill bit. And I have a little hand drill, and so we drilled them out so that way, as the RPMs go up and it pulls harder on that booster, it won't enrich in the mixture so much. So we leaned out the top end so that way it won't diesel when we get up in the RPMs. Because I watched it as it shifted and the RPMs dropped. Well, then so did the smoke come down. But then as the RPMs climbed again, when we grabbed the next gear and it's going up, well, then the smoke started to come back. And so I was like, oh, just my visual analysis of this engine and how it's running. Like, there's no vacuum gauges, there's no O2s on it. Just my visual smokage was telling me, okay, this thing has way too small of high-speed air bleed in it. So drilled it out, took it for a test drive, and it was mucho better. See, I just don't want to get too far into detail on the carb tuning. I think I might lose some of you guys because we can go really in depth, and I have old videos on that. But just what I gathered real quick by pulling a plug, which is you're driving most of the time on the main jet and the transition slot on the primaries. So that was looking fine on the plug because that was 99% of what I was driving on. The secondaries, when they opened up, is the only time I saw the smoke. So that's what I went to, and that's what we tuned, and that is where the engine's at right now. And hopefully we can get some better burnoutage. But with the wind today, I think the smoke is just not going to be a cool smoke show. I also put more pump shot in it, which there is a cam lobe here, a plastic cam lobe that activates this arm. And that's what adds additional fuel into the engine for when you snap the throttle. If you just slowly accelerate the throttle, you can see no fuel comes out of that pump shot. But watch now as I whack it. That's why it's the pump shot. When we need that quick burst, and the fuel that is in the metering block takes a minute second to speed up as it goes through it when you crack the throttle open. I mean, I had a dead spot when I was trying to do the burnout. You don't want to... we had to get rid of that. All right, now that we got all the gobbledygook out of the way and I've explained how I was an idiot and the car, I didn't represent the car that well, let's try and redeem myself and the car right now. First, with proper burnout. All right, I'm gonna cheat a little. I'm gonna use some of my survival water. Can't believe I'm doing this with a 440 big block. I'm telling you, these factory rear drums are amazing. Come on, 71 RT. Just give me a proper burnout. Let's get them pumped up. I had to cheat a little, just a little. Okay, so we at least got our burnout footage. We have redeemed ourselves on that, kinda. I mean, we had to cheat, but it is hot outside. It's like 108, 109 degrees right here where I'm sitting. And it's 55-year-old Survivor car with a tight converter, stock converter, and more excuses. I was about to say, is my drone buddy still following me? There he is. I see you. Hey, what's up, you? Good job. Good job. You didn't lose me yet. Brake test. Engage. Let's get up to speed. And 3, 2, 1. 1. Let's check it out. It actually stopped pretty decent. Okay. We're good. We're good. So when I slammed on the brakes and everything went forward, so did the remote on the floorboard and made my drone go different directions. Way to stay in the air. Good job. It nodded at me. If I point, does it nod? Good job. Okay, maybe it was a fluke. Man. All right, so we got a draggy hooked up to this thing this time. I want to see how well it stops and how pathetic it accelerates. I mean, it's a bone stock 55-year-old car. And right now it says we are at 5,000 feet DA level, which is the air density. We're only at 2,000 feet elevation, but the air quality is the equivalent of being at 5,000 feet. So maybe that'll make up a little bit for how slow it was, or how pathetic the burnout was. It's a little warm. It's a little warm. But let's just see what it does. We're out here. I've got the draggy, and once we hit the quarter mile, we'll just go ahead and slam on the brakes and see the negative G-forces, and then we get to work our slapstick shifter. I love this thing. All right, here we go. We're gonna stall it up. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Rookie move. Rookie move. Reset. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right, go, buddy, go! Slam! Bam! Bam! Unimpressive. 16:05 in the quarter mile. Ooh, those brakes are bed in now. Oh, I forgot. Dang it. I didn't slam on my brakes like I was hoping to. Well, since the drone is still in the same spot, hopefully, yes it is. We will go ahead and do that right there. All right, here we go. Get up to speed. Where's the drone? Where is it at? I don't see it. It's still there. Well, it turns out after looking at the footage, the front brakes were not locking up. I mean, it's a heavy car. It's a lot of nose weight bearing down on them front tires. Maybe we didn't get the front brakes bled all the way, but I could have swore we did. We weren't not getting any more air. You know, and these rear drums, there's something to be said about the factory RT rear drums, 11 by 2.5. Those things have some clamping force. Well, I had a lot of fun playing with this 71 RT. You've seen it from what we started with in Nolan's driveway, and we've worked on it, got it running and driving, made it look better, got it to this point. There's probably still some fine tweaking. Maybe we need to bleed the front brakes again. But as of right now, I couldn't say I give these front brakes a pass. It sucks because I really wanted to. And it could just be, I said I'm an idiot. Maybe I just didn't get these brakes bled all the way. But I don't know. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the series that I've had on this 71 RT. I've had a lot of fun with it. And with that being said, I got to move on to other things. And we're going to go ahead and drive out of your life right now. The headliner keeps falling apart. It's just blowing debris everywhere. You know, it just dawned on me too. This is a 55-year-old unrestored Charger. It's original. I mean, and we're still out driving it and having fun with it. So do you think that a 2026 Charger would still be doing this 55 years from now? I highly doubt that. So the fact that we can take this car and have all this fun with it, some idiot just tried pulling out in front of me, that one, it's pretty good. So I give this car a lot of credit. Now, did it go really fast in the corner? No. But this thing is heat soaked. I drove it 30 miles out of town. It's 108 degrees right now, 5,000 feet DA level. It was not going to perform. But the fact that it still performed and drove here and I'm driving back, this is a great car. Now I can just cruise. I didn't take the highway this time. Everybody's always in such a hurry. Just mellow. The 71 RT Charger is back at home. It completed the road trip well, almost perfectly. We did have some issues. Not really an issue, it's just the car's got a lot of miles on it. It's got a lot of years on it. It's a 55-year-old Survivor car, so up in the elevations, you know, it was kind of doggish. You know, we've lost some compression, we've lost some camshaft over the years of wear, and so it underperformed just a little bit. I mean, we ran but if we think about it, 1605, when it's 105 plus degrees at 5,000 DA level and with the years tagged onto it, that's pretty relative. What's not relative though is I felt that my new front brakes were kind of underperforming. And not wanting to be on like the manufacturer trashing bandwagon, I was like, you know, let me just give lead brakes a call. Maybe there's something I missed, something I did wrong. And so I go ahead and I give lead brakes a call, and I speak with Bill, who was very informative and talked me through everything. So, I mean, customer service on par. And before I called, I wanted to have some information for him so I just don't seem like, well, an instruction manual reading Yahoo. And I did a brake pressure test. And with this brake pressure test, I found I have 1700 psi at the calipers. Which is more than enough to adequately run. I mean, that's even really good to run this brake system. So with that information I gave him, he's like, well, what do your rotors look like? And I was like, hey, I can see you. Bill was like, yeah, that's your problem right there. You're not supposed to be able to have like a mirror reflection in your rotors. Well, I also knew this. That's why I was trying to figure out what would have been wrong. See, if you look back, if you think back towards the beginning of the episode where I'm like, instructions, words, we don't need that stuff. Pictures, I can assemble this. Well, that was my downfall. See, there's actually like a break-in process, and I didn't follow that break-in process, and I had overheated the rotors and the pads and glazed them. Which, if you don't know what that means, that's like the equivalent of kind of like putting grease on your rotors and going out and slamming on the brakes. It's just, which is what was happening. See, I'm so used to like race car stuff, you know, big, super aggressive brake pads that you just go out there and you get those brakes super hot and get them working. Well, yeah, that's not the process for street car stuff. And dummy me, I didn't read the directions or instructions. And so what I had done is essentially ruined the surface of the rotor and the pads. Now I could turn this and I could sand the pads down, but Bill was like, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna send you a new set of pads and a new set of rotors, and this time break them in properly, and I bet you're gonna have an entirely different result. And I agree with him. Although, now I will say this, when Chrysler designed these cars and they came out with disc brakes in I believe it was 68, 69, which these kind of mimic the 4-piston Kelsey Hayes disc brake setup that would have been on like your 68 Dodge Charger. Now, if you ordered that brake setup brand new in 1968, you didn't get the 11x2.5 rear drums. No, you got the weaker 10x2 rear drums. And that was how Chrysler sold the car. That's how the engineers deemed it to work properly. So it could be a proportioning thing between having too much rear brake with the 11x2.5s with the 11-inch rotors that, you know, it's just not jiving together correctly. Now, was Chrysler onto something? Was that the proper way to do it, is install this with the 10x2 rear drums? That's how the engineers had it. I have it with, you know, this setup with 11x2.5s. So, and even with the brake bias all the way out, is it still too much? Don't know. What I do know is that when I get my new rotors and my pads, I'm going to break them in properly to the book, and I'm going to reinvestigate this, you know, 11-inch disc brake setup compared to the 11x2.5. If everything is broken in properly and jiving correctly, and I still have too much rear brake, well, I'm just going to say that the Chrysler engineers were correct. And with that note, Chrysler did in fact design a bitchin' car. I still love my second gens more though. You just cannot dislike a second gen. If you're a Ford or a Chevy guy or a European guy or an import guy, whatever, they all love the body styles of a second gen Charger. Okay, Well, I officially need to get inside, edit this video, and get on to the next thing. So, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that happy jazz. And I hope I have informed you, and I have informed myself on how to properly break in brakes. All right.